According to a 2019 Executive Summary on Poverty and Equality by the National Bureau of Statistics, 40.1% of the population in Nigeria, Africa's most populous country and the largest producer of oil in Africa, is classified as poor. That is, on average, 4 out of 10 Nigerians has per capita expenditure below $400. A UNICEF report also states that 10.5 million of the country's children aged 5 to 14 years are not in school. Only 61% of 6 to 11 years olds regularly attend primary school. Some states in the northeast and northwest of the country have more than half of the girls not enrolled in schools, as marginalization ensures that girls are deprived of basic education. Now, the struggle was going on, however, prior to COVID-19 to ensure young children stay in school and have access to proper education, as Nigeria contributes approximately 20% of the total global out-of-school population. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic is revolutionizing digital and online education globally, but kids in rural and underserved communities like Nigeria are being left behind as they are not equipped to adapt to or transition to new methods of learning. In filling these wide margins, governments both at state and federal levels have intensified efforts in ensuring that programs and innovative solutions are introduced to change the narrative and address dire challenges such as innovations. Lagos State government, in collaboration with a private firm, recently flagged off an online learning platform tagged ecodigitalschool.com towards the development of education and in line with the transformation plan of the sector. Not as beautiful as these innovations seem, a plethora of questions have arisen that addresses issues such as the practicability of digital learning in Nigeria, given the current infrastructure and access to internet service challenges we have in Nigeria. Now, how many homes have direct and uninterrupted access to computers and internet facilities? And of course, how many homes have uninterrupted access to power supply? How affordable and accessible are these facilities within the Nigeria space? How better can we prepare and position as Africa's largest and most populous nation for revolutionized, digitalized educational sector across the globe to be in tandem with global advancement? This will be the focus of our discussion tonight on the program. Welcome to the Polity. I am Olugbenga George. See you after this time out. This is the Polity reaching live from Kaftan Television studios in Abuja. Now, to help us make sense of some recent happenings within Nigeria's educational sector, I have with me in the studio the CEO of Sam-Waiz Institute. He is an educational consultant. His name is Omoniyi. It's good to have you join me on the Polity today.
Thank you so kindly, Mr. George.
Now, there's quite a lot of challenges as well as developments in Nigeria's educational sector. The challenge of advancement in the educational sector has been an issue on the front burner of every government in this country, especially since the re-emergence of democracy in 1999. You realize immediately after President Olusegun Obasanjo, came into power, he saw the need to create an effective educational system. Thereby, we had UBEC, Universal Basic Education Commission, and then at the state levels, we also had the same replicated in order to be able to domesticate some of those programs that were introduced. But up until this time, there appears to be a lot of challenges with Nigeria's education. We talk about, first of all, the employability of Nigerian students who are able to go to school eventually. Then we talk about those who are growing up, who are within the school, the quality of education that they get. Is it in tandem? Is it at par with what's obtainable in the world? Now, another thing, like I said during my introduction, is the introduction of the digital revolution, that has changed the entire narrative and perspective to how we live and do lives these days. So, but I want to ask you, following all of this background, what is your general outlook on Nigeria's educational sector at the moment?
Mr. George, I cannot be happier. I can be happier dealing with this topic today. Now, we are talking about digital advancement in education of the world. But come to think of it, Mr. George, were you taught in a school where they used interactive board in the higher institution?
Mm-hmm.
Did your higher institution had, perchance they had that when you were?
Certainly I wasn't.
I wasn't, and I wasn't as well. You see the point? Now, if at the stage of higher learning, when you come out and you start claiming, I've got this, BA this, BSc this, BTech this, we didn't even know what was called interactive board. We didn't even come to see learning with technology. How worse would the subset be? The primary school, the secondary school. It's better for people who could afford to go to private schools, private institutions, but even at that, it's all messed, sir. The simple word is, it's a pity right now for Nigerian education system. A system of education where we still have the textbooks. For instance, check the social studies textbook. A family is still being defined in Nigerian textbooks as what? Union between a father, mother, and children. So come to think of that definition, it's on its own. So what if it's a father, a mother, and there's no child? It's not a family, right? What if it's just a single mother and the child? It's not a family. What if it's, what if it's, there are shades to these things. And you see in that same textbook, you see the boy, picture of a boy playing football. You see his sister washing the plates. You see the mom cooking. And you see the father sitting down. And then you say, Willy, oh. Mommy in the kitchen cooking rice. Daddy in the parlor watching film. So that's the strata we are setting subconsciously for our children to log into. Everything in the world has changed. The first electronic computer was carried in a truck. Right now we've got things smaller than this, sir. Education is still the same way it has been since inception. It has moved in other nations, but ours, even the books that the children in the rural areas would use, is still going to cause havoc to them.
No, but this is interesting coming from you because, yes, it might be a reflection of the reality we have in Nigeria at the moment. But we have also had several Nigerians, across the world who are leading the ace and setting the pace when it comes to their adaptability to education, especially this modern and digitalized education that we are talking about. And I think that is what qualified many Nigerians, to be in the cabinet of President Joe Biden of the United States, for example, and several other youths who are leading the ace in technology, in other sectors across Africa. What's made a difference between these persons and the current educational system that we have known really well that at some point or the other, they were also products of this educational system? Thank you very much for that question. You see, sincerely, it's fulfilling that we're talking about this. And it's of great opportunity for whoever avails himself or herself of this channel right now and of this very project which we are dealing with. Now, the difference between the persons who are leading the ace and setting the pace for the world, even that are still Nigerian, that were cooked from this same unsteady, imbalanced education. The difference between them and the people who have refused to grow, like I said, they refuse to grow. I wasn't taught with technology, but today I teach with technology. What's the difference? How did I get there? Now, those who are leading the ace at the pace of the world right now, that were also products of that same rugged education system, is a matter of working on themselves. They saw the future being projective and they are working on themselves. Learning does not end. In this generation where we have people who only want to be in school so as to have it as a way to challenge others. You're in school, I'm in school. When we meet, you say, what are you studying? And I say this, then you ask yours. It's where we think too much about the papers.
So people just want to get the paper and then they relax. When you mentioned earlier when you were opening up about employability, a lot of teachers right now with MA are applying to primary schools. A lot of persons with very good certificates are applying to secondary schools where they in the advert you see salary attractive, but when they get in there, they are paying them 15,000. And then they will say educational system or school system is poor. They don't pay teachers very well. There are some schools, they pay NC holders 150,000 naira. What is the difference between that NC holder who earns 150,000 and that degree holder, that MA holder who earns 20,000 naira in another secondary school? One had grown, the other kept banked on the certificate and didn't grow. So some persons are scared. Tell some persons to go and apply to certain schools in this very country, they will just laugh because it's going to look like a joke. So you mean someone like me should go there? Because they know they won't measure up in such schools. Such schools are digital, and they know they're analog. So that's the difference between these people who are doing well out there in the world and for those who have refused to grow. Then
that will begin to take us to the point of the conversation where we now start asking, how do they become digital? How do they become, those who are analog, how do they become digital? Basically, you and me know that what drives every sector in the economy is policy. Like I said at the introduction, Nigeria has developed many policies, implemented many policies to boost the level of education in Nigeria so that it can be in tandem with what's acceptable globally. But I would like your rate. Is it that some of these policies are not effective enough? Is it that these policies are not rich enough in their creation? Or that they are simply not working because the Nigerian society is a special one?
Thank you very much. If it's about matter of policies, black on white, Nigeria is blessed with policies. We are blessed with policies. Policies. But when it comes to implementation, we are bankrupt. We've got rich policies. A friend of mine in Germany said, our notebooks here are good enough to be textbooks abroad. Yet our products, graduates here, will go and start elementary classes abroad. Policies, the book, the theory, we've got it. But then practicalize it, we can't. It's not like we can't. We really don't give attention to it. Now, that's the real problem. Now, how can these persons avail themselves when the government itself is not in tune? The system really doesn't care. So that is why whoever wants to push up really needs to work on himself or herself. Now, do you know, interestingly, these things are easy to access today in that you've got one business center, one computer store beside you. Sir, is it not sad to see that persons get done with nursing, they can't get good jobs, then they remember they have skill for hairdressing. There's nothing wrong with hairdressing, sir. Are you with me, sir? But if that person had invested the 6, 7, 8 years spent on or wasted, so to speak, what's the essence of studying what you would not use? What's the essence? So if that person had studied, invested now, that time, no, you don't need to invest 8 years in learning the in and outs of hairdressing before you become an expert, before the world will seek for you. You get the point? So the thing is, these things are all there around us, but we look down on these shops, these offices where we can learn these things. You get it? There's this thing that Africans use the most expensive handsets, but they use less than 20% of its functionality. That's because we just to show I have this. That's exactly why it is difficult for someone who needs the help of a roadside mechanic, yet claim to have studied engineering, but cannot humble himself or herself to go solo, to stoop, to conquer. Go down, ask that roadside mechanic how he does it. He didn't go to school. You blame me when in school. That's exactly what makes Nigerians to thrive outside this country. A lot of persons who graduate with pass in Nigeria, they go abroad, you see them graduate in first class. The system here is more rugged. But the system out there, do you know digital learning makes education fun? That brings us to the origin of the word school. It's from the Greek origin, and the etymology of the word school is from a Greek word. The letters, anyway, the Greek letters. And it simply means leisure, philosophy, and a place of lecture. So if these three things are missing in our educational system today, the only thing we have about school is the last meaning of the etymology of the word school, from the Greek meaning, the place of lecture. And that's why people just sit down, or stand or lean to the wall, put one leg on the desk and start telling you things, their story, life story, and you just talk and you watch them, and that's all. But what about the philosophy that will help that person be a meaningful human being, resourceful to the society? What about the leisure part of it? Is education fun today in Nigeria? Is it? No, it isn't. You see it? So these are areas of concern, sir, and we cannot overbeat it. Okay, before I begin to ask you what you think the solutions are, can we look at the challenges that the administration and planning of education face in Nigeria? Because I already mentioned earlier, I talked about policy, which is the major driver of every academic, of every sector of economy. Now, administratively now, what are the administrative challenges in terms of planning education, in terms of administering it? What do you think are the major challenges that Nigeria as a country is being confronted with? Thank you. There's this saying that you cannot give what you don't have. Now, in a situation where you have persons, aged people who had their standard 4, standard 5, whatever, that's the system that gave birth to them. These persons are still at the end of our affairs in our schools. Sir, what do you think they are going to give us? And these persons didn't go back. See, the psychology, we need to drop that mind, that psychology of I have BA, I have MA, I have PhD. I think that's the end of education. There are a lot of things you learn in institutions that they don't go by MA, B, Ed or whatever, then PhD, that would help you more than what you learned in B.Ed. So people just have that mentality after the first degree, master's, PhD. There are a great chunk of things you can learn from enrolling in some diploma for 3 months. 3 months, and you would realize that is what is going to make you more meaningful to your society. So these people, the major problem we are facing in the implementation of these policies is that these people don't even know how to implement these policies. Some of these policies are just a carryover from another nation, and we just bring things down, and we don't even know how do they do it there. Let me make people want to cry a little. That I met someone, a cobbler, and he told me that in their school, he attended, what's it called? ABU Zaria, and he said in their school, they had a department, he studied shoemaking. I didn't believe that. Do we have a course like that in Nigeria? And I was shocked, but then he told me the sad parts of it, which blew it all up. Because he said that in that department, it's now non-functional. It does not exist because when they graduated, they were doing very well, to the point that a particular agency approached them and told them that they're going to be producing the footballs, the leather balls like that will be using MPL, MPFL, the African Leagues, African Cup of Nations, and all of that will be used. But they should bring their graduates that are doing very well in that field, and they will train them abroad to study under some bodies like Nike, Puma, and all of that. At the end of the day, do you know the people that went? The lecturers went. Now, these old men went there. You know what happens? They will give them allocation and all of that. They came back and they said they retired. Can you imagine? So where is all that knowledge? Where all what they went out to get is wasted. Oh, come on. Even if they had come back and they are using it somewhere, I wouldn't be angry. It's sad. Look at so how would they implement it? Go and check those guys. Most likely they went there taking pictures with white men. That's all. Just to show I've traveled out. So how can these persons who don't even know how to navigate their phone now navigate a system? A core system now, a core digital school is to accommodate 10 million students at a go.
Mr. Omoniyi, I'm sure we'll come to that. We'll come to that in the conversation.
Okay.
But let's also reflect, especially because of this point that you have made, on some giant strides of the government. Of course, it has to dig back again to when we had President Olusegun Obasanjo come. We saw a lot of introduction of programs, even to move to the 6334 system of schooling in Nigeria, and afterward we moved on, and most especially look at the imbalance as per the embrace of education across the regions, where we have the north, the east, and the west, and we have some certain sectors embracing education and all of that. But you notice that in the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan, he looked at the north, and then it was at an alarming rate, and then he introduced certain programs, that he thought would be able to enlist more children in schools. But up until now, we still have the challenge of about 13.5 million children who are out of school due to a lot of issues owing to some security and, of course, other cultural issues that I have mentioned earlier. But where I want you to come in is this several governments, especially the government of an administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, have been making attempts at going digital with education. You remember we're supposed to have a partnership with the government of Canada where the open school system would be adopted, and then they can, like we have this 10 million now, maybe not up to 10 million at the time, but a lot of children would be brought to a particular place and be taught, digitally and all of that. Now, I'm wondering, all these projects seem not to be working or seem not to have even been effected at all. But I'm wondering, and I was hoping that you could give us some perspective to it. Why do you think that many of these programs that are being introduced, why do you think they either fail or do not last whenever they are being introduced to the Nigerian system?
Okay. Every bit of question you ask want to make me say thank you very much. Because you're really hitting things straight. Now, the thing is, when I give you a contract and I don't follow you up, have I given you anything? No. You are on your own. You can do anything. I'm not going to question you. Especially, how does it feel? What confidence would I have if I give you a task to do for me, and then because I see that task as a favor to you, not that you are doing a favor to me or to my people. Because it's a favor to you, then I demand some percentage from you. I can't ask you how the job went, because I know I shared part of it. So the thing is, I didn't want to go straight. That's why I give that analogy. The canker that is eating every aspect of Nigeria is too much. It has been overbeaten. The fact of corruption. Now, these policies are there. These projects are there. You've assigned some persons to carry them out. They are not carrying these things out as expected, and they are still there. They're there the first year, they're there the second year, and nobody's saying anything about it. It's wrong. So I should be questioning your integrity when you've said you've handed over that task to somebody. The person is not doing it. I'll be waiting to see what you would do to the person.
All right. I would have liked to ask you if indeed when it comes to holding these people accountable, contractors like you're trying to say, for example, is it the sole responsibility of government, quite agreeable that someone actually appointed you or appointed me, for example, to take up a particular project, but this person is holding public trust, is holding the mandate of 100,000 or 200,000 or 1 million people from his constituency, or maybe for about 200 million, for example, if it's at the national level. Now he's holding the authority of these people to ransom. My question is, who should question these people? I mean, who indeed should we hold responsible, where accountability should be demanded in this regard as per coming to educational advancement and development in Nigeria? I'll take your response, but we need to take a break. Right after then, we'll come back.
Okay.
All right, viewers, I hope that the conversation on educational advancement in Nigeria is getting more and more interesting. Of course, I will get to answer that question, but we need to take this short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Now, in case you just joined us, this is the Polity reaching live from Kaftan Television studios in the nation's capital, Abuja. And of course, today we are looking at education in Nigeria. We are looking at how much Nigeria has been able to embrace technology to provide and advance the state of education and learning in the country. Of course, it's a very challenging subject today. And I've been in the studios with the CEO of Sam-Waiz Institute. Of course, he's an educational consultant. His name is Omoniyi. All right, it's good to have you again on the show. Please, I'd like you to respond to the question just before we went on the break.
Okay. Actually, when we say someone gave that contract out and should follow up on it, to every contract there is a supervisor. So that person assigned someone to watch over this particular one. And that's when you look at the link, there's so much link in the line of assigning or awarding contracts that the contractors don't even owe anybody any allegiance anymore. I assign you, you assign someone, they assign someone. Now, eventually, if we have the interest of the people at heart, I should be able to go back and check, what have you done? You see some government personnel going to see certain projects without telling the contractors they're coming. And it has always been disappointment, you know. There's never been a time that you see government officials going to hospitals to check the doctors without telling them they're coming. One of the governors did that. He went around 1 a.m. and he was disappointed what he saw. They called some of the doctors. They didn't know it was the governor calling them. They didn't pick up. So imagine that's a patient that's in need of, you know, an urgent attention. So that's why they're not going to pick. That's how they're not going to pick. So if we could have this, you know, unforetold visitation with unannounced, I believe people are going to sit up. It boils down to supervision. It boils down to follow up. That's what makes friendship, right? That's what makes relationship, right? That's how I know. Okay, look at it. These people were not busy when it's time for election. They visit us to the grassroots. But when it's time to carry out the work, then now they are so busy, we don't longer see them until it's time for another election. All
right, are you saying at this point that the Nigerian people, that the electorate, that the ordinary Nigerian citizens do not have any responsibility in this regard?
Of course we have, sir. Of course it is. Now, let me just ask you, who do we talk to? We've not seen anybody. When last have I seen the person representing my local government area? The way they came, that we saw them one-on-one before election. When they were telling us to vote for them, we saw them, they came to our streets. They promised they were going to help us with our roads. They promised they were going to do a lot of things. We saw them, we knew them. It was like we were seeing celebrities. Now, they are now like indeed celebrities. We now see them only on screen. And that's if we see them on screen. So they no longer come to the streets. How then do we talk to them? And today when you speak about certain persons, you mention certain names, it looks like you are being abusive or you are attacking the government. But I just want to tell you, sir, remember what you promised us. There is a recommended budget percentage that should go to education. Nigeria has not done that. Nigeria has never been able to meet the recommended percentage for education, the budget. But you see budgets, the National Assembly they are renewing it. You hear how much goes to that. If we put that into an educational system, really, not just say we've invested this amount, but we've done this indeed, we could see it. Why is it that the government schools don't have windows? Public schools don't have windows. They are not flawed. They're rough. I mean, if things like this, they call for concern. Okay,
let's reflect on some agencies of government that we know are kind of responsible for this and try to see how far they have gone. We have, for example, the Education Trust Fund, which is supposed to be a deposit, for the development and advancement of education in Nigeria. We have the Industrial Training Fund, of course, which also aids in education for those in training. And we have different agencies of government set up basically to perform some of these functions that we're talking about, to measure the temperature, evaluate the growth, and all of that. Now, how would you rate the performances of these government agencies in terms of performing their statutory duties of ensuring, advancements in academics, of regulating, and of course, knowing fully well that education is not cheap, and of course, injecting funding into education in Nigeria?
I would say, sincerely, when you go to institutions, you see handwritings on the wall. PTF, what's it called? ETF, this, 20 this, 20 that. But you also bear me witness that most of these structures you see these names on, it's only the color that changes. You've known that structure to be there before now. But it's the renovation, it's a renovation. So it's not like something new is coming to sit on that. Perchance, get a new place, build us an active ICT lab. Meanwhile, let me go straight to say that the people are also bad. When I say corruption, I didn't mean the total government, like the government, just government. Government, the heads of these places are secondary school principals. What are they doing? How are they taking care of these, the ones that are available? I remember Introtech Lab, when it was Introtech when I was in secondary school, now Basic Tech now. All the machines that were in that Introtech Lab, they are at the state of rust. No one. We were even drawing. I saw Jack or whatever saw. All were drawn with chalk on board, because I went to Onu Boys High School, and it was terrible. So if we can't even get a saw to show our students this is saw, then what are we expecting? So it's that bad. So everybody now, what if you would have asked this teacher, give us quotation of what you would need. He would write it. The principal adds his own. Now everything comes in and you just don't see it. So when I say the government, I just wish people would have sympathy for the future. See, let me just face, where's the camera? Let me just face people and say, please, if there is by any means you want to do anything, just consider the future of your children. Whatever we do today will affect the tomorrow. We may not be alive to see it, but our children will never forgive us for what we've done yesterday that has made today like this, and which will also determine their tomorrow. It is sad. It is sad.
All right, Mr. Omoniyi. You're making a lot of points, but I'd also like us to look into the school curriculum. The school curriculum, of course, provides the template for the programmings, for the subjects, and all of that are being treated in these schools, which eventually determines the quality of education and learning that is being derived. All right. Nigeria currently, we have a school curriculum that is prepared, that is being revisited also from time to time. So my question is it that our curriculum, is not rich enough to give us the kind of education that we need? Or that we need implementation, to some educational policies that would enhance the use of that curriculum to the letter?
All right. Like I said earlier, every bit of question you ask, you are speaking the voice of the people, actually. And I hope I am answering the hearts of the people, too. Okay. To say that the Nigerian curriculum is not rich. It's not. It's not going to help us. We produce children that are more like rote learners. You hear people who tell you, my teacher said, then you ask, even a teacher is asking the students to explain certain things, and then you hear things like, so when you were explaining earlier, you said, I mean, if that has come to be the child's knowledge, the child should say, this is this. But the child leaves the school, you see people traveling from one place after graduation, and they are still carrying their lecture notebooks. I mean, that's the situation. That's not a curriculum. That has made more robotics of human. We are more status than status right now. All right, so we've got more people coming out of school and doing and can't add nothing. The word nothing, you see, nothing is, we think nothing is nothing, but people can add nothing to the society meaningfully. That's because the curriculum that makes you onslaught, you cram it, you don't even understand it. You cram whatever law of gravity, you don't understand it, but you just cram it. Meanwhile, there are places, a friend was going through British curriculum, and then he saw what was meant for key stage in England now, key stage 2, which is meant to be primary school. And then he said, no, this is what we teach in chemistry, a senior school. Then the way they are even putting it is too high. I said, that's the case. That's why we should be crying. Look at what kids are learning scientifically outside their aim, so to speak. Our primary school is what our own secondary school students, the Lord help us, and they can't even relate with it.
Okay, but let's look at it. Now, you mentioned primary school, secondary school, and education is in these phases and these stages in Nigeria. Going back to the primary schools, we have this curriculum, that they follow, but a lot of things have changed, and especially with the introduction of COVID-19 last year, or even before that, there have been calls to revisit the Nigerian educational system, and a lot of ideas have actually surfaced. One of them is the STEM program, if you remember, that talks about science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and programming to add to it. Now, all of this is in a bid to improve the quality of education in Nigeria. And some states have adopted it, but it looks like we are all having to wait to see how much other state governments will adopt this system and make it part of our educational curriculum. But I just wanted to find out, perhaps you have a knowledge about why this system, which we know will drive education to the next level in Nigeria, why it is not being very much embraced or given the kind of attention that we would have expected.
Okay, sincerely, I'm grateful for that question. And I want to say that in my little exposure with schools as an educational consultant, I have come to see that some schools are doing very well. Don't get me wrong. I know of a school in Anambra State that even represented the country at national level. I know of certain schools in Abuja here who are doing well in robotic. However, I need to say this, that most of the encounters I've had with people who call themselves STEM facilitators, they buy robots and then bring them to schools and then let the robot perform things for the children to watch. And they say that's STEM. That's not STEM. You are just catching fun, fooling people and wasting people's future. You get it? STEM means you want to teach these children how to do this. You can use that robot to instigate, to trigger the passion for it, to let them see this and say, do you know someone did this? Now, we could bring up problems. Let these kids then come to think about problems and how can they solve it. So that takes a child to go home believing that there's something disturbing me, daddy. We all know what's his name? Smith, this actor, his son Jaden Smith.
Okay.
Jaden Smith, when he was 10, that was when he had his birthday, and then he told he went surfing, and he saw plastic bottles on the waters, and he looked deeper, he saw more. He went back home telling his dad, "Why are people so dirty?" Then dad said, "The plastic don't decay. There's no other way." He said, "But they are disturbing the sea life. The animals in the sea have been disturbed, and the environment is being polluted." And that's how that boy started thinking of how to solve the problem of, yes, still put water in a can, but then let the can be recyclable. Do you know, that's what at age 11, this boy, the money he made from his Karate Kid and all of that, and some other projects he did, he put that into making just water, where the can, the container was made out of sugarcane. A boy of 11. I mean, it took him 1 year not to give up on his dream. The dad said when he started, he felt like, this my boy is just, they taught them something new in school. You know that craze that comes with it, and the child disturbs you for a day, two, and then it's off. But this boy, so if we can raise kids who would just see problem and want to, not just to show them this robotic. So I think the system is that most persons who claim to be STEM facilitators need to be lectured. I mean, they need to go to school. They need to be able to even build this thing. Like, it boils down to not being able to give what they don't have.
Quite interesting. But you have painted a very, very interesting scenario here, using Jaden Smith as an example. A lot of people would argue with you, especially in Nigeria, that, okay, Jaden Smith grew up in the right environment. I mean, he went to the proper schools where his ideas could be harnessed and then become productive. He also had an economy that would support his ideas. Because I'm saying this because when you look back into Nigeria, you realize there are still a mammoth challenges to deal with where it comes to the average child in the Nigerian society who is confronted, whose parents, for example, back from home, are confronted with economic challenges of having to struggle to feed, put food on their table, which of course affect their psychological disposition at the end of the day, how much they are able to assimilate in school and even get the knowledge that is being passed across to them. And of course, you now go to the schools in itself, where you now begin to look at the facilities. How available are these facilities that will be able to communicate, you have mentioned that earlier, the ideas that the teacher is trying to pass across to the students. So all of these challenges exist in Nigeria. But I want to ask you, and on top of that, we also have serious insecurity issues definitely in Nigeria right now. So there seem to be, a pocket of challenges confronting advancement of education in Nigeria. But I want to ask you, how do we begin to design a way forward in this regard in such a way that we will embrace what is acceptable globally, and at our level, it will be broken down so that no matter what level an individual is, when I say level, I'm talking about economic level. No matter what level they are, that they are still able to access education, at a point or at a level that is acceptable globally.
All right. First, I want to approach that by saying, we've been speaking about education in tandem with school. But do you know right now I'm learning right here. This is a school right now. Do you know the home is a school? That fashion center is a school. That mention anywhere you can learn a thing is called a school. Now, let me say this. An education that happens only within the classroom is not an education at all. Any education that limits you to only classroom is not education at all. Education that cannot make you go back to the society, go back to your, come to understand even your environment. Then I can know that I can mention the name of this thing. I can say, oh, this is this. This was what I will see it, and then I will know it. I will know why these greens are around me, why I didn't get to plant some things, yet they are growing. You get the point? So education should take me back to my environment and understand my environment and be a more meaningful person to my society. So if these things are not there, I think that's why we need to start looking at redefining education. Education is not just about school. See, not everybody needs to go to the 4 walls of one something grammar school institution or blah. It could be a fashion house. It could be a barbing salon. Many people are making waves with these things. Now, a lot of persons who have these entrepreneurial skills today are employing graduates to work for them. Or graduates will get done with whatever study, then go under these ones and then study. And then they come out practicing that. So you see, if we've, from our homes, giving the children the right psychology, the right mindset about life, teach them the right things. Don't just leave. Today the schools are having a lot of problems because the support from the parents is not so much. They blame you for the behavior of the child, that the child didn't greet them at home. So it's a school that should teach your child to greet you at home, and the child will misbehave at home to his dad. The dad will bring the child to the school and say, this my boy is stubborn. He insulted his mother.
All right. Quite interesting because of our time, as we'll be rounding off soon. I'd like us to touch quickly on the Lagos state adoption of the digital lab, where 10 million children can be taught at we go. Now, a lot of questions have arisen from that, as a lot of Nigerians are wondering. While some are giving the Lagos state government thumbs up that it's such a beautiful initiative, especially looking at the COVID-19 era that gave rise to all of that, and their ability to be able to convert that to a continuous use, But let's look at it in practical terms. We still have, I mentioned earlier, the challenges of electricity in Nigeria as we speak. The entire country, operates on less than 4,000 megawatt power supply. Right? While that is there, we still have insecurity challenges across. Then we also talk about the access to be able to access these devices. How affordable are these devices? So all of these challenges exist at the moment. But I want to ask you, how do we domesticate that initiative in such a way that it is practical and it is beneficial, and it is not just a paper thing or a caricature approach, to dealing with serious issues in this country?
Okay, thank you so much. First, I want to say we can't solve our problems. If I have to be practical enough, to every bright cloud, there is a dark side. Somewhere it's going to be dark. So, sorry, but we are being realistic right now. That no matter how much we want to make this thing so domesticated, it's not going to get to everyone. Okay. That brings us to where the individual is seeking for what is coming. So by the time you put that drive in your children for learning, who taught the first teacher? You get it? So it's just this drive to learn something new that led to a school system and all of that. The first set of persons that taught the first set of persons to be students, who were they? Who taught them? So that's just the situation. So you see, people need to have that drive, and the government need to come with this initiative down to the people. And if you ask me, this question right now is sad. It's not looking like, but it's possible, right? Because we need to look at a way of bringing this thing down to the people. And how will it get down to the people where you and I know what we face? Even people with the device don't have, you have your subscription, yet the network is poor. So how then do we do all of these things? I think it's to go back to the drawing board. Before we start, that's why we have neglected projects. Before we start, let's see the feasibility. How possible is this thing? So let's put down the things that will make that thing work before we set up the system. Not to set up the system, then we start dealing with issues like this. Now we still have poor, network. We still have a terrible epileptic power supply, and then we already now set up the system, which is a good thing. But the good thing is in an environment that might choke it. So we need to deal with these things first. And if there is power supply, I bet you there will be growth in not just educational sector. In every other sector, there will be growth. So let's just deal with this issue. Lagos state government, fine. Kudos to you. But then we want to see this thing in practice. And I think they only launched that and will be working on this issue on how to reach the people.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so very much. I mean, there's still a whole lot more to say, but we have to draw the program to a conclusion for now. But I hope to have you again to further engage on these subjects because it is a matter of importance in Nigeria. But I want to thank you so much, Samuel Omoniyi, educational consultant, for coming on the Polity today. We really do appreciate.
Thank you so kindly, Mr. George, and a wonderful job Kaftan TV is doing.
Thank you very
and
much.
Please keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so very much once again. Now you've heard him say it all. And one of the things that we must not forget from his many points is that education that is limited to the classroom is no education at all. That is, you have to bring yourself out and be willing to learn and be willing to know what's trending and be willing to be innovative to bring up new ideas to what you already know in the classroom. And he also said that vocational education is one of the educations that you can also get. So whether you cannot function in the classroom, you must find a way to function eventually in the society. And if you embrace that to the fullest, you will definitely get the best out of it. He also mentioned that we should learn to teach children the right set of value. I think that's very important, and we must not forget, as they say, education and charity begins at home. So the child has to be taught from the home first, then before he goes into the society. And of course, if we have children who are well taught from home, we'll have a better and a more organized, equitable and egalitarian society. Thank you so much for joining us on the Polity today. I'll get to see you again some other time. My name is Olugbenga George.